Hi guys, on our channel we dissect a lot of the movies and look at them from a psychological perspective. This requires us to discuss scenes in a lot of detail. We would recommend that you watch the movie before watching our episodes. Thank you. Hi, we are back again with Sholay on yet another perspective. What is Sholay without Gabbar? We cannot end the topic of Sholay without talking about its most powerful character, which is Gabbar. We've spoken about the smaller characters, we've spoken about the protagonists, we've spoken about side characters, their motivators and their catalysts. But I don't think we can stop the discussion without talking about Gabbar. So, my question to you is just that: what is Gabbar?
I wish I know. So yeah, I'll still attempt to answer that. So अगर आप देखेंगे the clothes in the movie talk so much. They've been kept standard and simple throughout. It's not tried to create any confusion with characters, So Jay and Viru wear the same kinds and the same color of the jacket. You know that Thakur is constantly in the same kind of a kurta pajama and a shawl around his shoulders. And Radha is, of course, in a white sari and a very simple everyday village ghagra choli, not very fashionable in any way, that Basanti carries with her. So they've been able to do a lot of talking also, like I said, beyond just the formation of the character, which includes also the setup and the clothes. So agar aap dekhenge, Gabbar is constantly in these black clothes. He has his teeth stained with use of tobacco. He walks around with that belt of his. So there is this kind of a body language which kind of walks out, right? And in that walking out, if you look at the rest of the scenario, there are people who are lesser than him. They are not people with him, or they are not people who तो आशीर्वाद कहीं उससे अच्छे हैं और उसको मिल रहा है, या दोस्त हैं जो उसको सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं. देयर इज नथिंग लाइक दैट. देयर इज एवरीबडी हुम ही कमांड्स एंड दे देन फॉलो. सो दिस नीड फॉर कंट्रोल कैन बी कंसिडर्ड टू बी Gabbar. And the need is not only with reference to control other people, it's also control on ourselves. So there's a concept called persona and shadow, which you'll also get in the first chapter of Three Coffee Stains Later, by the way. The first chapter is called Shadow, in the sense that there is this pleasant part of us which we introduce to the world. It always doesn't need to be a mask that I am not who I am, but there is this dark side inside, as we like to say, that that's not me. Whenever you've gotten angry uncharacteristically, you only got angry. But what do we end up saying? I've not been myself today, right? So this is part of our psyche that we want to reject. And that part of our psyche that we reject, the part of the society that society rejects, then goes into these jungles. एकदम ही उजाड़ जगह है. Just a lot of stones and mountains and just a lot of browns, very less green, just a lot of browns. So उसके अंदर पलकर बड़ा हुआ एक shadow, a black character, right, who doesn't care, who says कि गब्बर से तुम्हें एक ही जन बचा सकता है, गब्बर, and you owe me money for being that. I'm protecting you from myself, right? So this dark side that all of us have inside us, that is what Gabbar symbolizes, right? Now, a villain will always come as a counterpart to a hero. So the way we talked about Jay and Thakur, who could have been an older version and a younger version of the same temperament, you're talking about Viru and Gabbar being of the same temperament. They both love drama. Okay, he creates the Tanki wala suicide scene the larger than life, and he likes this whole, audience and all of that. Similarly, Gabbar is somebody who says, कितने आदमी थे, 2 थे, right? And तुम फिर भी डर कर आ गए. So he creates this whole scenario where everybody laughs and everybody feels there could be some mercy, and there will be letting go of these men. But at that opportune moment, he then kills the 3. So he likes the sheer drama. Yeah, when they talk about killing the Ahmed character, Imam Saab's son, right? So he's lying down and he only kills a fly on his hand. So he's this man of a lot of theatre, which is also what Viru is about. Now, the reason why where they are coming from becomes very important, and that's why agar aap dekhenge, if you want to show Hriday Parivartan in a character, you try to tell us where that person is coming from. If you want to show them as a villain till the end, you don't show us where they are coming from, right? So we were shown where Viru was coming from. Zarurat ne humko banduk chalana sikha diya. So that's where he's coming from. But Viru is protected by the absolute care that friendship can bring in. Extending it out to, then he's loved by Basanti. He's experiencing Thakur. He's experiencing Mosi. He's looking at Imam Saab, and Imam Saab standing by them despite Imam Saab's son having died, right? So he's just this somebody who's exposed to this world. Now what the shadow is, because of a few bad experiences, has withdrawn itself into a world where it dismisses everything which is beautiful, because the only color or the shade that they want to see is fear. जो डर गया वो मर गया. So the thing that I will not let myself feel is fear. That is Gabbar. Now if we don't let ourselves feel fear or any gentler emotion, for example, right? So love for Basanti ki jagah, Basanti is supposed to be my kaneez and she's supposed to dance for me, right? Constantly having an upper hand, right? So if we are not able to look at any of these tender emotions, what it then ends up making us is a mass of a lot of blackness, a zid. So this need to control comes out of fear is something that Gabbar doesn't understand. What he's trying to control is fear. And in his fight with fear, anything that can create fear, he would want to become scarier for them. So if he would be scared of Thakur, he will create fear in Thakur's life by killing all of them. Okay? If Jay and Viru have stood up to him, he will say, Aake mere paun chuo, because he wants to control his fear of Jay and Viru. Jay and Viru se wo darne laga hai, because he also had to run away. Right? So Gabbar is the symbolization of a man's need, a person's need to control their own fear by becoming scarier. So there's this theorist, Alfred Adler. He talked about how all of us have these inferiorities and we are not okay with our inferiorities. So what we do with our inferiorities is, some of us will hide and say, I don't want to deal with it. Some of us will escape, saying, let's get out of here. But there is this mother who's gone to the zoo for the first time, and ek sher dahada. So the third child, he stands on the railing of that particular cage and he howls back, right, at the lion. Right? Now that howling back, the need for the reaction is coming from fear. But how do you drown this fear out? By creating more fear. So then Gabbar becomes the embodiment of terror, which is internal, which he is trying to control by terrorizing other people and controlling other people. So that's what Gabbar is. If Viru wouldn't have been facilitated with the journey and the other characters around him, he was very well become Gabbar. So Gabbar is anybody whose positive strokes in life have been lesser, to an extent that then they withdraw from that and would not let anybody even come closer to them to heal. They become extremely unlovable because the only way they want to be looking at it is fear, right? So they turn even love into fear.
So when you were talking about Gabbar and him being the shadow self, I was thinking about if Gabbar is representative of that, what is the who is the counter to Gabbar? Is Viru the counter to Gabbar? And is that why when he says, when Viru says, Basanti tum in kutton ke samne mat nachna, is that his way of trying to protect Basanti from exposing herself to his darker parts?
Yes, right. So Viru does recognize. Okay, so there are a couple of shades when they show us where there's a possibility of Viru coming into the picture. That possibility being that he would have broken the promise given to Thakur, because Thakur ko Gabbar zinda dena tha, but the need for revenge in Viru was so high that ye वादा अगर मैंने किया होता मैं जरूर तोड़ देता, but I can't disrespect what Jay has promised you. So that willingness to transition to the darker side was very, very high in Viru. And that's why agar dekhenge to he doesn't kind of go back to the simplicity of the village. He's going away somewhere, right? He did not go propose to Sara drama ki atanki pe chadke and everything, but he did not go propose or go to Mosi saying that I am in love with Basanti and I want to go ahead. He wants to leave everything behind. It's that Basanti ends up joining him in the train.
Right.
And that would mean that now he doesn't become the second Gabbar. Otherwise, the way they ended it, if Basanti would have chosen not to join him, he would have left that place and gone into a world without Jay and become a much, much, much more bitter man. So the possibility of Viru being Gabbar, or if Gabbar got the right circumstances, Gabbar being Viru, is the exchange that I at least sensed as counterparts in the film.
There was just this one nagging question that I had. Whenever we watch any kind of movie, like cinema has this trend of, a multitude of villains, but one superhero taking over, eliminating bad from the world, and it has to be that one character who takes over like an army of wrongdoers. Even in Sholay, like it's Jay and Viru against the entire army of Gabbar. Why does cinema feel the need to portray the numbers in that way?
So first, it's not for the need for cinema, it's the need for storytelling itself. Ramayana had Ram with an army of monkeys and the villain had 10 heads, right? You had 5 Pandavas and 100 Kauravas. You have, if at all you're trying to show a Rakshas or a dragon or a Baba Yaga or something, you're creating more features to them compared to what is possible only for the human being. So let us look at it psychologically in this aspect, saying, let's explain the idea of overthinking. We all are worried about our negative thinking and the way thoughts work in our mind. Saying, एक बार एक negative thought आने लगा तो आता ही रहता है, आता ही रहता है, आता ही रहता है. And a lot of us nowadays are exposed to ideas of doing affirmations or doing positive thinking. So what you have to counter the multitude of thoughts with is this one or two simple thoughts. And the simpler that the thought is, it becomes that much more easier to counter the worst of the negative thinking which you can bring into your own life by thinking about it so often. So at any given point of time, what we are saying is that a hero or anything which can fight against darkness is like that one light in a full dark night. Right? So it doesn't need to be that you need to be the sun where you're so bright that darkness doesn't happen in your life. You could just be this lamp, you could just be this silver lining, you could just be this little, and that's the hero which can battle an army full, right? So the idea and concept is always with reference to overthinking, as to how negative thoughts will multiply a lot more faster, and positive thoughts is something you have to hold, nurture, and build. And the lesser complex and the lesser in number your positive thoughts, you'll be able to nurture them and make them bigger. The more number of positive thoughts you're trying to bring into your life, you will make it negative by adding too much. So it's like colors, right? You add 1 color, 2 color, 5 colors, 10 colors, it will only keep getting darker, right? So simple thoughts will be able to fight an army of darkness is the idea and concept of storytelling forever. It's not only cinema, but that's the ideology that story is about. The good against the evil. So evil is larger always. And that little human figure, with the help of course of a lot of different things, is able to fight that largeness of not goodness.
Right. It's interesting that you speak about the characters as the internal thoughts and like our internal selves. I remember in childhood when my mom used to read me a story from Mahabharata every night. She would tell me that each character, the story of Mahabharata is peopled really well. Like there are thousands of characters which are fleshed out in great detail, and she would tell me that each of these characters is like a thought in our head, and the battle of Mahabharata is the battle in our heads each day, and as we make any kind of decision. So that's beautifully represented in what you said about the hero and the villain, and why one needs to be bigger than the other. And stories are basically like a footprint of ourselves represented in characters outside. So that was a great insight, and I resonated really well with that. So we're concluding Sholay here. If you guys have any more thoughts or any more questions that you want to ask us, please leave them in the comments below. If there are any movies you would like us to talk about, please let us know, and we will be sure to watch those movies and bring more interesting conversations your way. Until then, we'll see you next time, and keep reading our book. Thank you.
Thank you so much.